something else. Thank you guys. I appreciate you all. Hey everybody, Marcus C. Williams here, and you guys are tuned into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams here in your ear, having the conversations with you that you need to hear. We are on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. And if you're listening to us online, please hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe, and put some hearts up or some thumbs up, drop some comments, and become part of the conversation. Even if you just want to say hi, put a hand in a wave, or say hey, drop a comment below. Everything helps it get out to get seen by more people. And if you're on the radio, make sure that you tell your friends and everybody else, even your enemies and the people up the street. Tune in Mondays, 2:30 to 4 p.m. to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. Now, we are the #1 conservative talk show in New York. Let's make it the world, okay? Thank you guys for tuning in. I really love you guys, and I appreciate being able to have the time here to talk to you about the important issues that are going on. I don't know if you just saw what happened, but they just released a whole bunch of new documents involving the Epstein information, and I don't know whether you want to call them files or whatever, but it was a whole bunch of information released from the Epstein, I guess you'd say, court hearings and documents that they collected and stuff like that. And it's very interesting, some of the things that they found. They found a number of different artists and musicians, and different people have been involved with sending emails back and forth to Jeffrey Epstein and all types of stuff. But I think the most important thing that came out of all of that is, you guys, we found out that Pizzagate was real. Remember Pizzagate, where they had it a couple of years ago, and they were talking about that people were using pizza as a code word for ordering children and stuff like that for sexual exploitation? Yeah. We found out that that is a real thing. And I'd like an investigation into Jennifer Anderson's pizza parties, because that has me make other concepts that I have to guess and stuff on. But we found out that Pizzagate was real the whole time. When they told us that, oh, no, that's not real. That's not real. That's not happening. This isn't happening. This isn't going on. But it was real the whole time. I mean, I guess you could chalk up another win for the conspiracy theorists. You know, I mean, I guess it's not even conspiracy theorists at this point. It's conspiracy truthers, right? I mean, all of these conspiracies come true. Like, what is going on? And we have to ask, we've seen so much information come out about so many people that were involved, and even apparently, and I haven't delved too much into this portion, but apparently Mondani's mother, maybe? Like, what is going on? Mondani's mother had stuff going on with Epstein? Is this like, and if you guys aren't familiar with Mondani, that's the guy who's now the head in charge of the, I guess you'd say, he's the mayor of New York City. Really, he's a socialist piece of excrement, but we're not going to dive too deep into him. But his mother has had dealings with Epstein, and they were all buddy-buddy. And the question is what type of relationship did he have with them? And we know these are all wealthy and powerful people, very wealthy, very powerful. And nothing really ever happens to any of these people. It's kind of concerning. You know, we see more and more documents getting released, more and more people getting embroiled in this stuff. And there's a lot to it, right? And it's more than just the presumed sex crimes, right? Can we talk about that, though? Can we talk about this man was a financial money mover? Like, he was all about the money, all about the Benjamins, baby. Okay? Like, can we talk about that? Like, so there's definitely series of monies moving around here and there, back and forth, and you never really hear anything about the financial aspect of what he had going on. So we really need to start asking questions. We saw some documents in relation to, what's his name, Bill Gates, and him possibly catching a STD from some sex workers and then trying to get antibiotics to give to his wife secretly. You know, now we have to ask, why did she leave him? You know, she might have left him because there's a whole lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that he's into. I mean, Bill Gates is definitely very clearly a very evil man. He's talked about he wants to block out the sun. Like, what type of evil villain? Okay, James Bond character talks about they want to block out the sun. Like something's wrong. You know, he wants to depopulate the earth and, you know, make people be forced to be sterilized and stuff like this. These are the things that he said out his mouth, right? So imagine the stuff that he said behind closed doors. And it's things like this that have to make you go, what's really going on? And how come we don't have any conversations about these things? You know, nobody talks about Bill Gates and the shenanigans that he's gotten into and stuff like that. We saw that Melinda left him and they were together for quite a long time. So we wonder what sordidness happened there. And I have to ask, you know, you look at all of these rich, extremely affluent people that are cut above all of us normal people and the poors, right? Like they think that they're so much better than us because they're so wealthy and affluent that they can do anything that they want. Well, when you got money on that level, you kind of can do anything that you want. And we see that over and over again. And people bring up these Epstein files, especially the Democrats and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I hear you. But what happened to the Pandora Papers? Or what happened to the Panama Papers? Now, these are extensive lists of financial dealings that the ultra wealthy had and how they hid all types of money offshore so that it wouldn't be taxed or so that they could hide it and pretend that they didn't have it or do secretive investments in it. And I'll take, for instance, the Panama Papers. Like everybody involved in the Panama Papers was murdered. Like everybody was murdered that was involved with that release of those documents. Everybody in the whole law firm was murdered. Everybody's dead. Like, so when you're at that level of wealth, at that level of power, they really don't play by the same rules that we do. You know, it's like how they say, oh, a ticket is just a suggestion to obey the law if you've got the money to pay it. And these are the conversations that we need to have, because if these people, these billionaires, these heavily influential people, these royalty, these diplomats, these people, those people, and the third, if they've got all this power and all this money, they're really not playing on the same level that we are. Look at what happened with John McAfee when he tried to come out with all the information that the government was doing us wrong, that all of these ultra wealthy people were trying to do all of this stuff behind the scenes. Not only did they kill him, they blew up a whole portion of an apartment building in Florida so that his so-called fail-safe drive would not be able to disperse information. Like, and that's crazy because that goes back to Mossad. Okay, they had IDF agents there digging through the rubble and stuff like that. How does that even happen? How does that even happen? Like the Mossad, like what's going on? Mossad, what's going on? Like we need to have these conversations. And again, going back to Jeffrey Epstein, he was an agent for Mossad. Okay, and you might say, oh, well, no, he wasn't or whatever. Yes, he was. And he was probably also working for the CIA and everybody else too. Anybody else, any intelligence agency that'll give him money, anybody that's rich and powerful that'll give him money. You know, we really need to have these conversations because these people are really, really, really here on a different level. And they don't care about what's going on because they don't subscribe to the same level of procedures that we do. When people say, oh, well, certain people are above the law, they are above the law. Like, why are we sitting here playing like they're not above the law? Their wealth, their power, their prestige, okay, it gives them all types of extra functionality to move within the, not just the economic system, not just the judicial system, but all other levels of influence as well. And it's something that is a tale as old as time. The rich and the powerful get away with all types of seedy and evil types of things. These new documents came out from the Epstein files, and we found out that there were calls of cannibalism, like eating human people. Like what is going on here? Now, if you are like me, you guys know that they've got a lot of this crazy stuff going on in the high realms of high society, you know, the Bohemian Grove stuff and things like that, and the different secret societies and the different demonic and satanic rituals that they've got going on and stuff like that on the high levels. And we just kind of take it and like, oh yeah, they do that. Because what are we going to do? They're never going to go to jail. Nobody's going for them. I mean, let's be honest. Okay, people are so upset or want to pretend to be upset. And that's the real deal, right? They want to pretend to be upset about the Epstein files, right? Release all the Epstein files. And what? And what? What do you want? What do you want to happen if they release all the Epstein files? Who's going to jail? Nobody's going to jail. Like there's been tons of exposure on all different levels of things throughout the last couple of decades, and nobody's ever gone to prison. You know, Prince Andrew, what? He actually had a case against him from the Epstein stuff. And what happened to him? Oh, he was disinherited. Nobody really knows. Nothing really happened to him. He had to be the sacrificial lamb for the family because, you know, somebody's got to go down. This is the conversation that we have to have and we have to talk about. Why can't we talk about these things? Why isn't it okay to talk about what goes on behind the scenes with the ultra wealthy, right? Like they try to silence you, they'll try to get rid of you, or they'll deprioritize you, or they'll make it so you're shadow banned or whatever when you talk about things, or they'll just try to tell people, oh, well, they're crazy or whatever. But it's come out that there was cannibalism going on. But it's come out that the human child trafficking with Pizzagate was real. What is going on? When do we get a chance to talk about these things? And why aren't more people just like outraged? Like it's beyond me. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this out there, and drop a comment. We'll try to pop some of your comments up as we go, but a lot of comments come in, so we can't always pop them up. So drop them as you go. Every comment helps, even if it's just a wave and a hi, how you doing? Or I like the show. Thank you for tuning in. All right. So as we continue this conversation about the wealthy and powerful never having any real repercussions, we have to ask ourselves, who are the people that are protecting the rich and powerful? And why are they protecting them? Well, I mean, look at Hillary Clinton, right? She's been known to have people murdered, right? They nickname her Killary. And it's just widely accepted that everybody around her that might have information on her dies. Like, how is that just widely accepted? How is that something that we're just like, okay, you know? And, you know, Trump ran for the presidency the first time. He's like, we're going to lock her up. Then he got into office and he was like, oh, well, we can't lock her up because she's the wife of a former president and it wouldn't look good. So what do the people care about that? We don't care. We want these people to go to prison. A lot of these people are very, very, very bad people. Very bad people doing very evil things. And it's so sad because a lot of what's happening, it goes untalked about, it goes unspoken about, right? Like not just untalked about, it goes unspoken. Like that's the type of stuff that you whisper in the corridors and stuff like that, in the hallways and stuff like that. And when it gets out to the public, people are like, oh no, that could never happen. Like them having babies off the grid with no certificates of birth and no social security numbers or anything like that, and using them for human sacrifices or for sex slavery. Can we talk about that? Now we know it's going on. There's been multiple stings and raids and things that have gone into this type of stuff, and we don't even talk about that publicly. But we know that they're having babies outside of the bounds of what we would consider the traditional record system, and they're using them for child sacrifice and for sex slavery. Like what is going on? Like we know that this is a thing that happens, that does exist, but we don't talk about it. And when you talk about these type of things, people get really fidgety and squirmy and stuff like that. And they feel really uncomfortable because they don't want to talk about those things because it's so evil. It's so demonic. It's so far from the general concept of what individuals would consider normality that they push it out of their heads. Even though we know that this serious, horrible stuff really happens. Really happens. Like, it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. And we need to have these important conversations. Now, if you guys think that somebody's going to end up going to prison over this and you're online, drop a comment. Tell me who you think is going to end up going to prison for any of these crimes that have been committed in the whole Epstein files and stuff like that. Because there's a number of rich and powerful people. And it seems that the only time that they go down is when they're about to try to tell some good information on some other people that might go down, or when they're the sacrificial lamb that has to go to the slaughter because somebody's got to go down, so they pick them. But we can't talk about that, and we need to talk about it. But it's again, it is beyond me that after all of this time, we found out that Pizzagate was real, and that is not on every news channel 24/7 for the next 48 hours. Like, how are they not going to investigate into this child human trafficking? And we know it's going on. And we look at what's happening right now with the current administration and people getting mad at ICE and stuff like that, right? But we know under Biden, over almost 500,000 children went missing that came into this country. Just almost 500,000. I believe the number that they're actively saying is like 350,000. So far under the current administration, they've been able to account for about 150,000 of those children. Like, there's still a whole nother 200,000 children that are just missing, poof, into thin air somewhere. Like, this human trafficking thing is real. It's real, and we just can't have a conversation about it. Like, why? Like, why is nothing being done about it? Like, go, when you get a chance, go look into how many Black girls are abducted in DC every year. Thousands upon thousands of Black girls go missing in Washington, DC every year. It's crazy, just the sheer volume and numbers. So in Trump's first administration, he put together a task force to actually go after the people and investigate what was going on with all of the missing Native American women in Alaska. So, and on reservations and stuff like that. So he did that. That was a really awesome thing to do. You know, like, our people are just going missing and nobody's talking about it. I bring it back to where I am here. Like, our city has such a huge human trafficking issue. Like, we have prostitution is rampant. We can't talk about that. We've got a lot of drugged up prostitutes, right? Like, that's its whole own problem, right? Outside of prostitution, drugged up prostitutes is even more crazy. Like, what are they doing to these women and men, in some cases, young men? Like, it's crazy. But we can't have those conversations. And nobody does any investigations into this stuff. Where are all of these people coming from? Like, it's crazy. And they just fall through the cracks. We have such a large rate of missing children. It's like every other day we have missing youth. Gone. Poof. In my area. It's kind of concerning, but nobody talks about it. Can we talk about it? We definitely should talk about it, but it's not being mentioned at all. And I go back to the missing children that ICE and Border Patrol are actively investigating. We really, really need to look at this for what it is. We have a lot of people right now that are actually causing all types of problems and chaos ongoing in the system to make it so that these people are missing, don't actually have anybody to go after them or look into them or anything like that. So this is a serious, serious thing, and we need to talk about it. But nobody's talking about it. Nobody's looking into it. And what's going on? Should we not care about missing children? Should we not care about missing people? Should we not? I mean, it's abysmal to me that things like this continue to go on and nobody wants to engage on it. Somebody needs to find all of these missing people. We need a serious investigation into that. I don't even honestly know if we have the resources. Because like we said, it's big business, especially with a lot of wealthy people and a lot of individuals that have a lot of power that are going on and I guess you would say embedding themselves into this type of manipulation of people. Like the human trafficking is maniacal. It's very, very, very concerning. And I brought up last week that, one of our biggest, it's always in our top 10 outflows in the United States, exports. Human blood. How is there so much human blood? It's our number one export that's a actual biological export. It's even higher than agriculture. How does that happen? So we need to have these conversations. When we see this type of stuff happen and there's no conversations on it, and where were all these people, especially the Democrats, Now all of this stuff is coming out and they're like, oh, Trump this, Trump that, Trump, 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 Trump. Seriously? Because I guess to them, Trump is the only thing that's important in the world. Not all the other information that's coming out, not the missing people, not what's actually going on, not what's actually being done, not any of it. Not any of it, But hey, I mean, of course they wouldn't care. Because why would they? It doesn't go along with their talking points. It doesn't. They can't do anything with the talking points except deliver the same ones over and over again. They've got a good bad guy. They want to keep the bad guy. So they're going to do what they can to continuously use that as, I guess you would say, as a anti-idol, Like it's their idol, but like what they consider to be evil. So as we go through this conversation, I want to jump into a couple of other sections of topics and stuff like that. But we really need to have a conversation about all of this high level insidiousness that's been going on forever, right? Billionaires, millionaires, the political elite and everybody just do whatever they want. Movie stars do whatever they want and they get away with it. We're in the whole eyes wide shut situation. And it's just, okay, okay, everything's fine. But when can we have those conversations? Let's jump into some stuff that's going on throughout the nation right now. Right now, we've got a lot of special elections that have just gone down. The Republicans have lost a couple of seats in the House. I believe the Republican majority in the House is down to 4 seats. So that's a very concerning situation right there, because we know that if the Democrats get back in power, what they're going to do is they're going to push for more open borders. They're going to push for more things that are going to destroy our economy. They're going to push for more funding for this, more funding for that, more. And the more that they push for, the more we have to expand the government. And at the end of the day, that's the biggest issue that we as the populace of our country have. The continued expansion of the government. So when we see a president like the current president, Trump, who's trying to cut back on government bloat and on government positions, and people are like, oh, no, don't do that. We have to ask them why. Because we know that our whole, I guess you would say the whole government in and of itself is so large and it's such a behemoth that it's crushing our citizens underneath it. It's making us completely dependent on the government. And that's something that we need to have a conversation about. The level of dependency on the government continues to increase as long as the continued expansion of the government continues. And that's a serious, serious issue. Right now, the federal government is partially shut down. They would not pass the funding for DHS, and that's a serious issue because DHS deals with a number of things. You know, they deal with the TSA. I'm not fond of the TSA. We've talked about that before. The TSA has never once stopped any terrorist activity. Okay, they're useless. I'm not the people, the individuals, right? But as an organization, like it's been a pain. And if you're older than me, you might remember before the TSA existed. So this is a serious problem. It's a serious problem that DHS is shut down. Like they're the Department of Homeland Security. Now, don't get it twisted. If you guys know me, you know I'm not a big fan of the Department of Homeland Security. Okay, I don't like big government. I don't like overarching government surveillance. I don't like any of that. But speaking of government surveillance, as we get into that conversation, one of the things that the Democrats want to push right now is they want to push the fact that they want more body cameras for ICE. Now, I need you guys to sit with that, and I need you to think about that very clearly, right? So what is the number one issue with the government right now against the people? It's the expansion of surveillance, right? It's the expansion of surveillance. People say it's this, oh, it's that. No, it's the expansion of surveillance, because the number one thing that you need to actually move towards bigger government, to more control over the people, is surveillance. You got to know who, what, where, when, how, why, and what motivates them. And we need to have those conversations. Now, the Democrats are trying to force ICE to have body cameras. Okay. And it sounds good, right? It sounds good. We're like, oh, yeah, it's going to be for the protection of the citizens. It's going to be so good, whatever the case is, whatever the case is. Is it? Because it's more government surveillance. Now you're going to have them be recording all the time, all the cars and the plates and the license plates and the people's faces and their gaits and how they walk and all of this and all of that. So you're saying that you don't want them to have this, and you're trying to have a condition of anonymity. You're trying to leave your cell phones at home and cover your face and wear ridiculous outfits so that they don't know it's you. But at the same time, you're asking them to have more surveillance technology and body cameras on. Who's stupid? It's like, it's ridiculous because you're asking for exactly what you're saying that you don't want. The same way they're out here in the streets acting a fool, getting in the face of ICE, giving ICE problems, okay, giving Border Patrol problems. And then they're like, oh, well, Border Patrol is being mean to us. Get out of their face. Hello? You understand what I'm saying? Like, stop poking the bear. Like, how is that complicated? Like, you're like, oh, well, I don't like that they're going after and hurting people and stuff like that. Y'all causing a whole riot outside of where they're operating. Y'all are trying to impede their operations. And then you wonder why people are getting engaged at that level? Come on. Stop playing. Why would you create a situation like that? Then when the events transpire that anybody could have predicted would transpire, now you feel in some type of way. And what does all of this cause? You're out here being all riotous and misbehaving and doing all of this and all of that. What's that going to cause? The expansion of the federal policing body. Duh. Like, are you serious? Why? Because they're going to need more federal level police because they got to deal with your cuckoo crazy behinds. And then you look at people like Tim Walz or what's his name? Governor Newsom. Okay, or Governor Witchmeyer, whatever the case. You look at all these people, they're like, oh, we don't want our police to stop the people from interfering with ICE. We just want them to go after the ICE people and not be impeded. Are you stupid? Like, you need to ask, are these people trying to create more federal law enforcement? You need to ask yourself that. These people, you might not think that they're the brightest, but they're not idiots. These people are not idiots. Tim Walz is not an idiot. Okay, that mayor, ridiculous mayor of Minneapolis, Jerry or whatever his face is, he's not an idiot. Newsom, as much as he's a piece of garbage, he is not an idiot. Gretchen Whitmire, she is not an idiot. These people are intelligent. So if you see the fact that they're allowing all of this destabilization, you have to ask, what is really in play? What is the end game for them? Because I'm going to tell you right now, anybody could predict if you keep giving federal law enforcement problems like that and they can't execute on their job, they're going to have to send out more federal law enforcement. So as these people know that that's what's going to be the end result, why are they allowing that situation to get to that level out of hand? Why are they not having the police prevent that from happening? Why are they not having the police allow the pickup of the illegal aliens that are in the jails or in the prison system? Right? Like, you got to think. You know, I had a math teacher once, her name was Miss Diudo. She said, listen and then listen. Because this is what you have to do with these people. You got to listen and then you got to listen again, right? Like, really hear what they're saying. Like, they're not stupid. We just take that they're terrible people to also just be like, oh, well, they're incompetent. No, they're terrible people and they're highly competent. Okay, they might be corrupt. They might be evil. They might even be vile. But they are not stupid at all. So clearly what is happening is exactly what they want to happen, because anybody can predict that if you allow people to run amok, it's going to cause more problems. You know, it's like, who's stupid? You got to think about what's going on. You know, somebody says that they keep making those jails full of prisoners that are privately owned fuller and fuller, and they make money off of that and stuff like that. You know, that's partially the thing, because they do get money. The state does give out money, and I'm sure that they have a lot of contractors and stuff like that that are actually giving them some kickbacks on the outside and stuff like that. But it's more than just that. They want this destabilization. You heard Tim Walz the other day talking about, oh, you remember when you were little, you read that book about Anne Frank? Well, we're seeing it happen right here. You're an idiot. Okay. Oh, wait, but you're not an idiot. You're not stupid, right? So he's not stupid. So he's playing dumb. Or rather, he's playing you for a fool. Okay, because they figure if they can sensationalize this, they can use it to their own benefit. And again, that is what these rich and powerful people are about, using any issue, any problem to their own benefit and to the disadvantageous nature of the populace. And this is what we need to talk about, because this is something that is happening over and over and over again. You think these Democrats want body cameras for what? For the safety of the people? Who's stupid? Why do you think they're putting all these cameras in our neighborhoods and stuff like that? If you look at almost every Democrat-run area, right, where they put in police accountability boards, where they put in all of this surveillance and stuff, they don't lock up criminals. They don't lock up criminals. So they're using all of this scanning, this biometric stuff. They don't lock up criminals. So if they don't lock up criminals and the Democrat areas are where they're pushing all of this stuff at, why do they need all of these cameras and all of this surveillance? Because clearly it's not for the criminals. You can say, oh, well, they're using it because it's for safety and public. It's not. It's not. And if you believe that, you're missing everything. You're missing everything. You gotta pay attention to what's going on, because this is out of control. What's happening is we see the left and we see the right, and we see the Democrats and we see the Republicans, and we see this and we see that. But what it always is it's always two dichotomies. It's always this or it's always that. But I'm telling you right now, it's mostly about the power structure in and of itself. It's about the people at the top of the pyramid. They're all in it together. You know, George Carlin made a very good point one time. He said, they all go to the same schools. They all go to have the same bankers. They all holiday in the same places. They're all married into the same people's families and stuff like that. They don't need to have a conversation about what they need to do to collaborate. They all know what is best for their own group. That's what it is, people. These rich, affluent people do not operate the same way as us as regular citizens. And they're all in it together. It doesn't matter what the party is. They're all working towards the same type of an end goal, which is more surveillance, which is more heavily curated presence of what you can and cannot do. Okay, we see it in the banking industries. We see it through all of these programs where they call it, what do they call it? Traffic calming or traffic easing. And they say that it's for the purpose of limiting accidents and not getting people hit by cars and stuff. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. It's a play on limiting your freedom of mobility. There's so much more going on than what we see on a daily basis, because you got to kind of put everything together. You got to put everything together, bit by bit, piece by piece, because none of these things, what do they say? We don't operate in a vacuum. That's one of the most crucial and most important things that can ever be said. We do not operate in a vacuum. None of this stuff is happening in a vacuum, you know? And we need to have these serious conversations. Now, speaking of a vacuum, let's talk about the Caribbean. Let's talk about Venezuela. Let's talk about Central America. Let's talk about Cuba. Okay? Let's talk about these things. We've got Venezuela right now is greatly in our grasp as America. Okay? You may have heard President Trump get on the TV and say, we control Venezuela. Well, we do. And well, I'm happy as an American citizen. Also not so happy because I don't feel that we get the biggest benefit from it, but also we're out there eating China's food. So I'm happy about that, because anything against China is good for us as Americans, because they want to destroy us completely. But the deal is with the whole thing with Venezuela, if you're looking at what's going on, a lot of the things has been twofold. It's been to hurt China, and it's been to actually hurt Cuba. So we've had a issue with Cuba for generations, right? For like the last 3 generations since Fidel took power, right? Like we've continuously had issues with them. Real quick, we'll come back to that topic. I want to thank you. You're listening to The Divide on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. You are tuned into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. If you're on the radio, we are here from 2:30 to 4 p.m. every Monday. If you're watching us online, hit the like, hit the share, hit the subscribe, drop a comment, be part of the conversation. I'll pop your comment up on screen. Even if you just want to say hey or hi or I enjoy your show, drop that, because every comment helps move the algorithm to get it out to more people. So let's jump back into it. So as we have this conversation about what's going on with Venezuela and China, China was getting a lot of the oil from Venezuela. Okay, Cuba was getting a lot of the oil from Venezuela. Cutting off the oil transfer to China helps the U.S. Cutting off the oil transfer to Cuba hurts the Cuban regime, which is something we've been trying to get rid of for generations. And now we're almost there. We've almost strangled Cuba enough to get rid of the regime. And just the other night, a couple days ago, 2 days ago, I believe it was Hammer. He's one of our what do you call them? Ambassadors. So he was over there in Cuba, and I think he's actually like the trade dude too, but it doesn't matter. He was down in Cuba, and like a whole bunch of people were protesting. I don't know how much a whole bunch of people is. I've seen like 10 of them. You know what I'm saying? They were giving him a hard time and stuff like that. So I can't verify the veracity of the video, but I'm sure, you know, but that video in and of itself said, hey man, we're about to make a move on Cuba. We really are. And that's going to be a big issue. Right now, Trump is talking about Cuba very, I don't know what a good word for it is, verbosely, you know, like he's talking about we might have to get some of our Cubans and have them go back to Cuba because they've been separated from their family and they need to redevelop the nation and stuff like that. I guess if you're a Cuban with some money and some power, you could really, and you live in the US, you can really make your move and push into the president's circle right now and get some serious influence, because he's going to need people to run Cuba after we get rid of the, I don't know what you call it, I guess, dictatorship. Okay. That's in Cuba right now. Personally, if it's up to me, we reincorporate Cuba back into the United States. But whatever is going to happen, it's going to be a puppet of the American people, of the American country. I just want to integrate it back in the US fully because I want our baby to come back home. If you don't know, Cuba used to be part of the United States and I want it back. Okay. But that's neither here nor there. He's really, the president is really talking about having our Cubans go back there and work on rebuilding the country and stuff like that and helping their family and stuff like that. That would be amazing. Cuba used to be real boss, okay, back in the 50s and stuff like that. So, I mean, it'll be very interesting to see what happens. It'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. I'm interested in what direction this will go. I think that what we're seeing right now with the cutoff, remember, Cuba was getting 1/3 of their oil from Venezuela. Okay. So that is a very serious impact. Right now, there's a lot of blackouts and a lot of other issues and stuff like that. So I guess the concept is if we cut it off enough, what'll end up happening is that there will be riots and the people themselves will try to overthrow the government, or the government itself will try to overthrow the government. You know, people inside the government will try to tear it down from the inside because they're not getting fed either. You know, they're not able to live to the same quality of standards that they wanted to either. And that's something that's very interesting. We'll have to see how that ends up turning out. But it's something that is happening now, and it's something that is going on. So we need to acknowledge what's going on there. And if we get that to happen, if we get the Cuban dictatorship to crumble, if we can replace the regime in Cuba with a America-friendly version, oh my goodness, we'll be really doing something. Not just for the Cubans, but also for America ourselves. So that'd be kind of awesome. That'd be kind of awesome. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. But a lot of this has to do with geopolitics, and a lot of people don't have those conversations, so they don't understand what's going on. If you guys want to support the show, you can go to Patreon and you can go to Rochester Free Radio and you can donate on there to the radio station, become an underwriter there. That'd be awesome. If you're online, you can support the show. You check out the sides right here. Or if you're on vertical, you can check out down there. But let's jump into it and keep going forward. Hit the like button, hit the share button, get it out there. It don't cost you nothing. So as we have these conversations about these important geopolitical issues, we have to look at it in the sense of how is that going to affect the mainland for safety, right? So when we talk about safety, we have to say, okay, well, who are the main threats? We have drug crime is a very big threat. Drug crime is largely being funneled into our country from China. Okay. China's making all the precursor drugs and stuff like that for the fentanyl and all of this. They're down there in South and Central America, especially Mexico, training all the cartels on how to make these different things and stuff like that. Very, very interesting, because their whole goal is to destroy our country from the inside. But we have to actually have that level of conversation. And not a lot of people want to. I look at it like, give, for instance, what's going on with the, I guess you would say, China right now, right? Internally in China, there's a giant conflict going on where they've purged a lot of the senior military officials. So people are like, oh, well, they purged a lot of senior military officials, so that means that China's not going to go into Taiwan. I beg to differ with that concept. I believe that because they've purged a lot of these people in the military, that's going to hasten and expedite their move into Taiwan. I believe that that's what's going to happen. And if it does look like Xi is losing power, if it does look like Xi is having all of these issues, we have two big problems. We don't know if whoever's going to replace him will be better than him. And we also don't know if, because he's old, right? Like Xi is old, right? And they say that he's not in good health. I don't know how true that is, but he's old and he's crotchety. So he's old and he's crotchety. How do we know he might not pull off some real serious high level, you about to catch some hands as I go down type of situation with some serious ballistic weapons and stuff like that? Can we have that conversation? No. And I'm concerned because I got to be honest. I don't know what will happen with this whole military issue, because I don't think that he's how can I say it? With Xi in power still and him trying to cling to power so he doesn't lose his life and his livelihood, I think that he is in a position where he has to take very volatile reactions. So he has to look big. He has to look Bogetti. He has to look like that. Otherwise, he will be removed from power faster than you can say lickety split. And somebody like that is dangerous because he's almost out of options. There are so many people that want Xi to fall. Who knows what he'll do? I mean, he's been measured, he's been calculated, he's been cunning, but that doesn't mean anything when you're under that level of pressure. Anything can happen. Who knows? And we need to be prepared for the possibility of that happening in the United States. So we have to make sure that we're paying attention to China and what's going on. I appreciate you. Somebody said they're sending love. Who's that? I'll pop that up there. Who's that? Nicholas. I appreciate you, Nicholas. Thank you. You guys drop some comments, even if it's just hey, hi, all of that. That all helps. Thank you, guys. So as we have these important conversations, China is one of the key dynamic players in the global marketplace. They have a major manufacturing capacity that essentially they produce like almost 25%, greater than 25% in certain instances and industries of the just general manufacturing of goods. And we need to have that conversation. Like, that's a lot of power. We just had an issue with the World Trade Commission, okay, or the World Trade Organization rather, where they filed in favor of China, where they're saying that some of the US's subsidies are harmful to China. Leave it for China. China is not the US. I don't care if our subsidies are harmful to China. Good. Do you know how China manipulates their currency? Do you know how China funnels all this money into all of these different industries that they have? That's why the industries are so big now. I'm honestly glad that the US is finally doing something to start taking the food off of their plate, because it's crushing us. It's crushing us. And nobody wants to have that conversation, because what's happened is in our stateside, they've made it so that we're so distracted by our day-to-day travails that we can't even focus on anything long-term. We see all of these industries that are coming back to the United States, and that's fantastic. Now, the question is, how do we train the people to get them into these jobs that are coming back? Or will all the jobs be taken by machines? And if the jobs are all taken by machines and we have Social Security that's collapsing, Social Security will be bankrupt allegedly by 2030. Okay, so that's right around the corner. That's another 4 years. That's terrifying. And and disability is at least good for a little while. They say about 2045. That's good till. But it's collapsing around us. That means that anybody my age or younger, okay, we're not gonna see Social Security unless there are some major changes made. Unless there are some major changes made. But Congress doesn't want to do anything to address those types of issues. They'd rather actually just go out there and rename libraries and rename post offices instead of actually addressing the serious issues. These are problems, you guys. Serious issues. But they'll say, oh, well, the president's trying to cut Social Security. No, he's not. Trump's ran a whole campaign on not cutting Social Security. He said multiple times in office he's not cutting Social Security. He hasn't made one move to cut Social Security. Separately from that, he's not even in charge of that. That would have to come from Congress. Hello? You think Congress, who needs to get reelected every 2 years, is going to pass a bill to cut Social Security? Who's stupid? Now, the concern is, though, we have people that have this whole concept that, oh, if we kick the can down the road long enough to another session of Congress, it won't be our problem. That's how we got here. You know, they say, oh, we blame it on the boomers or stuff like that because they've just continued to kick the can down the road, and it's all now landing in the laps of millennials and Gen Z. Well, it is. It's true. It's very true. You know, and that's a problem. You know, but we can't have that conversation. And we need to desperately have that conversation. Somebody brought up, they say, I have friends that have prescriptions that eat that every month, and it's high doses of fentanyl. So fentanyl, if you guys don't know, was just classified by Trump a couple of months ago as a weapon of mass destruction. So that's also something very important to understand, because it is also used in pharmaceutical drugs. But Trump said that, oh, well, it won't impact the use in pharmaceutical drugs. And this whole concept goes with reshoring pharmaceuticals to the United States, as well as production. I don't know how to stock for what are people that do all of the drugs all the time, the chemicals, DuPont. I don't know how their stock looks. I'm gonna have to go look at it. But you know, like companies like them that manufacture the chemicals and stuff for these different drugs and stuff like that, they're probably going to do pretty well in the future because we're working on reshoring all of this stuff. But as we have this conversation about RX drugs and stuff like that, Trump just launched Trump RX, okay, which is based off of, essentially it's a marketplace where you can get a list of all of the prices of pharmaceutical drugs and you can buy them for less. And that's awesome. That's awesome. But it also ties in with his push for most favored nations, which is a piece of legislation that makes it so that we pay only as much as the lowest amount of any foreign country. So for instance, what's been happening is countries like India, which they make a lot of pharmaceuticals there, will have one pill. Let's say it's some piece of let's say Vicodin, right? Let's just say Vicodin for all intents and purposes. It costs them 5 cents here, 5 cents there in India, right? But here it costs us $30, $150, $200 a pill, or whatever the case is. We will, because of most favored nations, only pay the lowest amount of what any other country is paying. So if India is paying 5 cents, if the Netherlands is paying $2, we'll pay what India pays. Otherwise, India has to renegotiate with the pharmaceutical industry to buy the drugs at a higher price, but still the lowest price that they can buy it at, or any other country can buy it at, is what the US will be paying for it. And that's going to have major cost savings. That's going to have major cost savings. So I'm looking forward to that. But we also have the problem that Congress hasn't pushed this through Congress. So right now it's only an executive order, and an executive order is only good as long as the president is there. So we need that. We need that very seriously. And we've got this whole push for reforming the healthcare system under Trump, where he wants to do these health accounts and stuff like that. And everybody's like, grr, because it's Trump, right? So he's a good bad guy. So let's be mad at anything that he does. But in New York State, we already have a health savings account in New York State. Like, what are you mad at? Like, these people just want to be mad to be mad. Like, it's ever so important that we have real conversations about this stuff. but nobody really wants to. Nobody really wants to. It's very, very serious. I'm excited for the Trump RX stuff. You know, I'm not on any drugs as far as pharmaceuticals go, or any other type of drugs. I don't do drugs. I don't really drink or do anything. I don't know. You call me a dry person or whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. But I don't take any pharmaceuticals, but I know a lot of people that do. I had to help take care of my grandfather, and like the pharmaceuticals and stuff there were like crazy prices. So I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be a big win for a lot of people. And yeah, you know, Canada has a lot of less expensive drugs up in Canada. So a lot of people try to go over the line to Canada to try to get drugs from over there. You know, I've heard about that very often. And sometimes they'll go over there for medical procedures too, or to Mexico for medical procedures because it's less expensive there. Now, it's funny about Canada is they have socialized medicine in Canada, but you can't get an appointment if you don't got no money. So appointments out there in Canada are like 18 months out, 24 months out, 48 months out. I saw this lady who was, she needed to get like her hip or whatever the case was going on with her. And they were like, oh, well, it's going to be 2 years out. You know, they were like, it's going to be 18 months for you to be able to get a scan, just a scan for her hip, knowing she's going to need a hip replacement. So if it takes 18 months to get registered for a scan, how long is it going to take her to get her hip replaced? Like, the dangers of socialized medicine are not lost on me, but they're lost on a lot of people that push this, oh, we need to have social medicine stuff. Look at England. England's got socialized medicine. It doesn't work out so well over there. Japan's got socialized medicine. It doesn't work out so well over there. Like, and I love Japan, but we're not being serious. We're not being serious at all. And speaking of Canada, Canada's got a lot going on right now with China. Again, getting back to the China and China's influence all throughout our hemisphere. The issue with China and Canada right now is they're trying to do like some sort of an extra deal with tariffs or whatever this case is, free trade or whatever. Canada's like, we're not doing free trade with them, you know, but they're trying to get rid of the tariffs on cars from China. Now, if you know anything about Canada, Canada makes a lot of the American cars. The manufacturing in Canada is largely tooled towards making American cars. So that's a lot of jobs, bro. That is a lot of jobs that are going to be sacrificed, that are going to be cause problems if they push more with this stuff with China. Because if everybody works in the car industry is helping make American cars, and now you're doing all of this stuff with China, we know that when China tries to move in any type of thing for their manufacturing or for their brands, only Chinese run it. Only the Chinese run it. Look at what happened to Jamaica. Look at what's going on in Nicaragua. Look at what happened in Panama. Like, we can see right here in our backyard what has happened. Look at what's going on in Mexico, because even Mexico is having serious problems with Chinese production of Chinese goods now, and them over flooding their markets and stuff like that, and them taking all types of jobs in industry and stuff like that. But we don't have that large a level of conversation on this, again, because it's something that we don't talk about. And if people don't talk about these issues, people don't see how they affect everything else that's going on. If China gets their grubby little paws into Canada anymore, it's going to be a serious national security threat for the United States of America. We know China is already openly at war with us, okay, through what they call fifth generation warfare. Go look that up. Okay, it's by any means necessary. That's why they're pumping us full of fentanyl in our country. That's why they're pumping us full of all types of poisonous goods. And I was talking the other day in our last episode about the biolabs that were found in California back in 2023 that were Chinese biolabs producing all types of poison. I guess you don't call them poison. You call them viruses and bacteria that are deadly or that would be put into our whole country. Like, they just found another one in Las Vegas that was tied to that one. This just happened the other day. Look it up. It just happened. So they found another biolab run by China, run by the same people. Now, this doesn't even go into the fact that we've caught multiple people in the last couple of months trying to bring in all types of bugs or what do you call those? Invasive species and stuff like that to destroy our crops and stuff like that, causing pestilences and things like this. This is what China is doing. China is really about that destroy us from the inside type of life. A lot of these protests and stuff like that are being funded and pushed by China. Like, you got to get with it. You really, really, really do. You know, somebody said Walmart also has a list of free medication, and so does Publix. That's good. I don't know how that works out. I can't verify that, but that's what somebody's saying. This is what we have going on. And China is against everything in America. They really are. And we need to wake up. We need to wake up, and we need to talk about how what's going on geopolitically impacts us right here at home. You look at it, you say, okay, what's happening here? Well, what else is going on, right? Right now, and I want to get back to the surveillance piece of this, we've got the Democrats pushing more and more surveillance. More and more surveillance. And I'm not saying that Republicans are not pushing more and more surveillance, but I am saying that largely where you see the expansion of surveillance on any sort of very serious level, you see it in Democrat areas. So when we see them push this stuff for ICE to have more body cameras and stuff like that, you need to start asking questions. You need to start asking questions like, how is that data going to be used? What is the surveillance once it's there? It's not going away. Once we start up these things don't go away. There's nothing so permanent as a temporary government program. You know, once it's started, it doesn't stop. And all of this that is being done, all of these pushes for, I guess you would say, disturbances, pushes for riots and stuff like that, pushes for civil disobedience, all of it leads back to the expansion of the government. So when people say, oh, well, I'm against fascism, I'm against this, I'm against that, are you really? Because the same people that tell me that they're against fascism want to expand the government. And that's what fascism is about. They want the government to control industry. That's fascism, people. You want them to control industry? That's called fascism. Like, what are you talking about? You're anti-fascist, but you want the government to do more things, and you want to expand government control over private businesses. What? That's fascism. But all of these definitions have been warped because at the end of the day, it serves to benefit the wealthy and powerful elite who are all working together against the American citizens. You know? We have to look at where our country is going and where our nation is going. And if we don't see and pay attention to what's happening with these pushes for all of these problems in our country, we're going to miss all of the opportunities that are out there at all. This is another big issue that I have with people that are always at Trump, okay? Especially in the Black community, the people that are against Trump so much. Why are you against him so much? You know, why? Well, somebody told you to be against him. That's why. Like, there are some legitimate things that I don't like about the current administration. And I don't know Trump as a person, as a human being. You know, I just know him. He's our president. He used to be a rich butthole. He got into the presidency and he continued to be a rich butthole. That's all I've ever known him to be. He is not disappointed at all. He's been exactly who I expected him to be. What do they say when somebody shows you who they are the first time? Believe them. He's been the same person the whole time. You know? So you have to ask these people, what are they mad at? And I guess you got to ask them, what are they mad at this week? Right? And that's the problem, because it's always something new. It's always something creative. And because they're always mad at him, let me be very clear. Because these people are always mad at the president, it's limiting our ability to maximize the potential of the positive aspects of what is being done in this administration. There is a massive complete reworking of the way the country is going to function in the future, because what we've done in the past isn't going to get us where we need to be in the future. They're reworking manufacturing. They're reworking the healthcare system. They're reworking the auto industry. They're reworking defense, okay, and military contracting. They're reworking all of these different industries, the steel industry, the nuclear power industry, the oil industry, coal. Like, they're reworking all of these things. HUD is out there reworking how HUD works. There are a lot of potential upswings that people can get involved in this administration if they would stop taking every chance and every verbiage that they can to poop on this man. Why, as a black man, what do I care about what's going on with Trump? What has he done that I'm supposed to be so mad at? He's gone against the illegal aliens. I don't want no illegal aliens here. Hell, I don't want half of the actual immigrants that are here. You know why? Because they don't love America. They don't care about America. I want me and a person that's immigrating here that loves America, is patriotic, loves our country, wants to be part of our country, wants to add to our country, okay? But a lot of these people care more about their homeland than they care about the U.S., which is the country that's giving them the opportunity to be able to succeed. And that's crazy. And all of those people need to go. Okay, every last one of them. And you say, well, Marcus, that's kind of harsh. Let me be very clear. With the direction that we are going in our economy, we talked earlier about the complete crumbling of Social Security and other social services. What's happening? They've depleted social services for public assistance, housing, and all types of other stuff because of these illegal aliens and other foreigners. Because states like New York State is giving them all types of money, like the $3.4 billion that they put aside just for illegal aliens, not for migrants, not for refugees, just for illegal aliens in our state budget in the previous budget cycle. Like, that's real. So when people say, oh, well, illegal aliens aren't getting any money, I don't know what you're talking about. In New York State, they are. And I know that they are because they wrote it into the budget, and you can go look it up. These are not secrets. Like, what is it called? Open secrets? That's what this is. It's an open secret. Like, we know it's happening. We know that they're housing them. We know that we're paying for their housing. Like, that is not a secret. We know that we're giving them food. We know that we're paying for the food. Like, that is not a secret. Why can't we have those levels of conversation? So yeah, for me as a black man, look at the communities that they put all of these foreigners and immigrants in, okay? Largely, they pump them into underserved or working class communities, pushing out the people that live there, taking advantage on the extremities of the people that are already suffering in these communities. Can we have that conversation? No. Because the people that are largely leftist liberals that say that they care so much about the people in poverty and the black people and all of this and all of that, they don't actually care to have these conversations. And yet they're out here championing for illegal aliens. But because why? Who does that benefit? Not us as American citizens. Illegal aliens don't benefit us. They're hurting us. And then they'll say, oh, well, who's going to pick the crops? I'll tell you who's going to pick the crops. The machines are going to pick the crops. Okay? Like, do you know how farms work? Have you been paying attention? I like agriculture a lot. Like, I like food. Like, so I pay attention very heavily to agriculture, meat production, and stuff like that. I can talk on end about it. But this is something serious is happening. Again, more machines, more artificial intelligence is coming for all of these jobs in the next couple of years. So even if all of these people were working in the field, which they're not, okay, you're talking about millions and millions of people that are here illegally, okay? They're not working in the field, okay? Especially nobody in my age range, okay? They're not working in no hot sun. They're coming from countries that have malls, cell phones, and the internet. Stop playing. And nobody, they're not doing that. They're definitely not about to go in any mining or anything like that either. So I don't care what you're talking about. However many jobs that we have for those industries, there are far more people here than would ever be able to do those jobs because there just aren't enough jobs in those industries. So who are they competing with? They're competing in other industries that are everyman jobs, like contracting, like roofing, like plumbing, like all of these other things that anybody can get these types of jobs and work as a trade and actually learn to do them. They're taking them. Okay. You go to, I was talking to somebody that went to Taco Bell the other day. They're like, nobody speaks English in there. And they're not even Mexican. They're all from some South American country, and this is crazy, right? Because you can go to McDonald's, right? And they're not speaking English. Well, these are a problem. And it's not like they're not speaking English like they're Cuban Americans, or they're not speaking English like they're Puerto Ricans. Like, this is a very serious conversation. So they're taking these everyman jobs, the basic entry-level jobs. They're going into the warehouses. They're taking all of the jobs. Okay, they're doing all of the Ubers and all of the this and all of the that and those type of jobs. And we need to have those conversations. We need to have those serious conversations. Somebody said you could also not pickles and strawberries with the machine. Yeah, they're creating all of these machines to pick up all of this stuff. So it's very serious, and people need to talk about it because people don't pay attention to what's going on in the agricultural industry. Very few people go out and look up what's going on with the agricultural industry, the production of machinery for it, or anything. But back to the conversation at hand, these people are taking the basic jobs. Okay? They're taking the jobs where you work in a warehouse, you go to a warehouse, everybody's in there, someone's foreign. It's crazy. Okay? The jobs that anybody can get. Now, mind you, we're competing with them for the jobs that anybody can get right now. Right now. Where are the industries that are creating all of these other jobs? All of the other jobs are highly tooled industry jobs, highly tailored industry jobs and stuff like that. So what happens with them? Oh, well, the people don't have the skills. So now we have to go out to India or China or Sweden, wherever the people are that have these highly tailored skills, or in the case of, what was it, Hyundai to Korea, okay, and get these people and bring them in on visas, or in Hyundai's case, they were all illegal Koreans, okay? We have to bring them over here to do the jobs because we don't have the people to do the jobs that are skilled in those jobs. Again, we have a massive shift in our industry system, and it's very, very, very serious. Somebody said Americans don't want those jobs. See, it's not about want, right? It's about the amount of pay. And a lot of these people will go with less than what average Americans would take for a job. And that's a big part of the problem. Okay, a lot of these illegals especially are paid under the table or off books or in some weird pay scheme in which they wouldn't get what they would if they were American citizens. Plus, it automatically keeps the pay rates of those industries down artificially. Artificially. Okay, that is a serious problem. So when you say, oh, well, Americans don't want those jobs, that's not necessarily true. What it is they don't want those jobs at that level of pay. That's a big thing. So that's not the issue. And we need to have that conversation because nobody wants to have those conversations. Like people say, oh, well, Americans are lazy and stuff like that. You've got people out here right now that are putting in hundreds and hundreds of applications, and they might get 10 calls back. How does that even work? How does that even work? Like, I know people with professional degrees, right? Like serious degrees, and they put in 50, 60 applications. No one's hiring, right? They've got the job, but they're not hiring anybody, or at least they're not hiring them. But these are good, decent, solid people that could get the job. So what's going on with that? Well, now, because there are so many people chasing so few jobs, a lot of people are counted out. And then people get dissatisfied and they get demoralized. So they just bail out of the economy completely and out of the workforce completely, because you get 50 non-responses from different jobs and putting in application submissions. How much more can you do? How much more until you feel almost completely defeated? And that's another conversation that we need to have, is how that impacts our economy and why we have so many people that are underemployed. There's a lot of people that are very much so underemployed underneath their talent and skill pool. So we've got people with bachelor's degrees working as baristas at freaking Starbucks, and they're out there protesting, talking about they want to unionize because they want to get paid more to work at Starbucks. Well, if you got a bachelor's degree and you're working at Starbucks, something is wrong. And we as a country need to start to look at that and see, well, what is wrong? Because why is somebody with a bachelor's degree, or even in some cases, depending on where you are, a master's degree, working at Starbucks, working on the floor of Walmart, working on the floor of Home Depot? Like, why are these people with these skills and stuff working there? What's going on with our education system, or what's happened with our economy? And that's what's really happening, and people aren't seeing it. But that's been going on for some years. I know that they've said traditionally, and this is something that comes up often, that something like 87% of people with degrees never get a job in their field. Like, that's crazy. And I'm sure that it's much higher now. I'm sure. Somebody said, oh, yes, to pay minimum wage. Now, let's talk about minimum wage for a moment while we have the time. Minimum wage is not the problem. The problem is the value of the dollar and the spending power of the dollar. I should say the buying power of the dollar in this case, right? So if you look at the minimum wage and you look at how much things cost, think of housing as an example. Okay, think of food as an example. The wages that are being paid for a lot of these jobs, you can barely make a living off of. And that's serious, especially don't have a kid or two. You can barely make a living off of them. And that's a problem. So people are constantly like, well, what am I even doing in life? And then they see all of these foreigners and illegal aliens getting all this free ride and all of this money. Like in New York State, where I live, if you're an illegal alien, you get free college. You don't have to even fill out the forms like anybody in New York State does. Like, there's a whole section there for illegal aliens specifically. Go look it up. Like, I can't even make this stuff up. Like, all illegal foreigners get free school, but you don't. You know, like, it has to be very specific industries, tailored things. But for them, it doesn't. How does that work? They've got, you look at Maine, they had this extra special program for illegal aliens. Again, when I'm saying illegal aliens, I am not talking about immigrants that have gone through the proper channels. They had this buying scheme where they would give these housing vouchers to these illegal aliens, okay, to buy homes. To buy homes. Like in certain states, and I believe California is one of them, they've got a special program. I can't remember how much it is, but they'll cover the down payment for a house in many places in California for illegal aliens. But they're not doing that for our citizens. How does that work? Something's broken. The focus in America is broken. We're not focusing on our citizens. We're not focusing on our people. And that's why I get very, very, very irritated by a lot of our elected officials, especially people like Chuck Schumer, who's my senator, okay, for my state. And he's out here talking about, oh, well, over here and over. I don't care about over there, Chucky. I care about New York State. I live in New York State. I don't live in Minnesota. If Minnesota were to burn down tomorrow, I would barely notice. You know, the smoke is all that I would notice, you know? Like, and that's not a shot at Minnesota. I'm just saying I don't live there. My representatives should not be representing a whole nother state. My state senators, like Jeremy Cooney, for instance, okay, talking about, oh, Minnesota, this, Minnesota. Dude, you cover my area in the city. You cover 3 of our towns on the side, okay? You don't extend to Minnesota. What are you even talking about, Minnesota? But that shouldn't even be a word on your lips. You shouldn't even be talking about Buffalo. You understand what I'm saying? Like, but this is what's happened. Our elected officials aren't looking to represent us. They're looking to represent their own personal private special interest or what they think is going to keep them in power and mobilize their specific power bases. And we need to have that conversation. This is a serious problem. Like, I'll give you an example, right? Like where I live, we have a serious issue with the school district. Okay. The school district pays more than any other school district per child. We're over $35,000 per child. You can put everybody through Harvard twice, okay, each year on what we spend on school for our children per capita in the city of Rochester in the RCSD. But we have the second worst rating in the nation as far as productivity and as far as the ability to pass test scores. We have the lowest test scores in all of New York State, but also almost in all the country. So this is a very serious issue. But now that's even been exacerbated because now we've got all of these foreigners here in our schools, some illegal, some here on TPS, some here on different ways. But all of this, they don't speak English. So now we might have one classroom, we got 6 different languages. That's not going to work. And all it does is drain the money, drain the resources, and all of that from our people. Okay? When are we going to have the chance to actually focus on our citizens? Who's out there looking out for our citizens? If not our elected officials, then who? That's their job. This is gross neglect and dereliction of duty. Why are they focusing on them? And then we can get into the election system because, like I said, they're doing it because they think that it'll mobilize their base, but also it helps them get all of these other monies for all of these other programs that they want to say that they're supporting, which again gets them elected. It gets them donations to their campaign. It gets them to put people into different jobs and stuff like that. Okay. But in the meantime, because of the need for funding for those additional programs and stuff like that, it means the taxes have to go up. That means the taxes have to go up, people. So there are all of these knock-on effects that we don't even have a chance to have a conversation about. And it's crazy. It's crazy. So we need to look at it like this. Okay, well, let's see what's happening with the current election system. We've lost so many people in New York State. Somebody told me earlier, I don't know if this is accurate or not. We lost like 400,000 people last year from New York State that just left. That's crazy. I do know that we have the largest outflow of any state in New York, in the nation, in New York State. So it's a possibility. That's almost 500,000 people. But they're bringing these illegal aliens here more and more and more. And there's the question with the green light law, which is a law that allows illegal aliens, not migrants, not foreigners, okay, that allows illegal aliens to get driver's licenses. Now, when you put in for a driver's license, you can easily register to vote, or somebody can easily register you to vote, okay, by mistake or intentionally so. Now, the question is that happening? I don't know. I couldn't tell you for sure, but I know that the likelihood of it happening is more likely when all you have to do is check a little box when you put the information into a computer. Okay. I know it's more likely to happen that way. And we have to ask ourselves, well, how many illegal aliens are actually on the voter registry? We'll never know. You know why? Because New York State won't give the voting registry information to the federal government. Well, if New York State participates in federal elections, how come you're saying that the federal government can't have the voting records? Not the voting records, but the voting, the voter information. Why would you say that? We're getting ready to come up on the time where every year we do petitioning to get signatures to get people on the ballot. Now, I know for a fact, because I go out almost every year for almost the past 5-10 years, okay, to help people get signatures or get signatures for myself or whatever the case is. But every year there are dead people on those lists, not like a little dead. I'm talking about people from the late 1800s on the list. Okay, I'm talking people fought in World War I type old, fought, not alive, like fought, like craziness, like this stuff is so serious. I had one lady one year, a couple years ago, okay, in my area. I went to her house and I was collecting signatures, and I asked for one person, and she's like, "Oh, that's my great grandfather. You know, he died after the Civil War." Now, apparently, the family had lived in the house for I don't know how long, but generations. The house is a lot of where I live. A lot of the houses are still like 1800s and stuff like that. So I don't know how long the family had lived there, but the generations very clearly. And she showed me a picture of him too. I'm like this is crazy. Like this is crazy. So I'm like, this type of stuff is what is going on here. So I know for a fact that there are people that are no longer living on the voter rolls. I know people that are illegal aliens that have registered, been registered, not necessarily themselves, been registered to vote and not even know it. So how did that happen? So if the state doesn't want to hand over the records for election integrity, then how can they be looked at? I know the Board of Elections refuses to look at them on the state level. They refuse to clean up the voter registry. So how do we know who's on there? How do we know what's going on there? And why won't you produce them? It's the same thing like the monies for the, the child care facilities in New York State that's subsidized by the government. The federal government subsidizes the child care facilities in New York State for many different programs, and the government asked for the records of all of those child care facilities. Well, why wouldn't New York State give them to them? You have to ask yourself that. We know New York State collects them. Well, why wouldn't they give them to them? See, these are the conversations we need to have, because clearly, if you look at this just very openly with a keen mind, you can see that something is very, very wrong there. Something is very, very wrong there. And we need to have those serious conversations. You guys, please hit the like button, hit the share button, get this message out there. We need to have this conversation. Drop a comment below. It don't cost you nothing. And if you want to donate to the show, you can go to patreon.com and go to Rochester Free Radio, okay? Or if you're online, you can check out either side to how to support the show there, or down below if you're on vertical, okay? So as we have these important conversations about what's going on in our country with all of these irregularities, we have to start asking who's benefiting from us not looking into it. I'll catch you guys later. Thank you for tuning into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you next week. If you're online, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it out. It don't cost you nothing. And if you're on the radio, make sure you tell your friends, your enemies, and everybody else. Tune into The Divide with Marcus C. Williams, Mondays 2:30 to 4 p.m. Thank you guys very much. Y'all be blessed and be well. All right, you guys. I appreciate you guys greatly for being online with me. You know, if there are some comments or conversations that you'd like us to have in the next show or whatever, drop them below, drop some comments, and definitely get this out everywhere that you can. And be sure to subscribe, because we are the ones who are going to drive our country forward. And if it is to be, it's got to be up to us. Catch you guys later. Y'all be blessed and be well. Remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action.